My name's Jim Hazeltine-Shedd. My current position is as an enterprise coordinator in the Bureau of Information Resources Management, working for the DCAO of Foreign Operations. My first post was Lusaka, Zambia. So I joined halfway through my wife's tour in Quito. So we spent a year with her in Quito, Ecuador, and me in Lusaka, Zambia. And in case you're wondering, no, there are no direct flights between Ecuador and Zambia, go figure. So that was a little bit of a tough year. What I did as an IMS, so this is not an uncommon story actually for first tour IMS. So when I arrived, the post was fully staffed. We had an IMO, actually an IMA, and me as the first tour IMS. And so we had 3 people up in the IPC, plus about 10 people down in the ISC, all locally employed staff. But in the first 3 or 4 months, the IMA and the IMO both left, and the incoming IMO broke his assignment. So I ended up as the acting IMO for a post in Africa, probably about 400 people, 4 or 5 months into my first tour. And it took them 6 months or so to get another IMO out there. So I ended up as the acting IMO for not insignificant amount of time. And it's a 3-person office, 2 or 3 person office. So it was drinking from the fire hose, that first tour. So the answer is I did everything. I oversaw the ISC, ran all the IPC operations, did, the class pouch, oversaw the phones. And the bad news was that it was a lot of work and a lot of long days. The good news is my wife was in Quito anyway. And so it didn't really matter that I was working 12-hour days and, getting the overtime and so forth. And I learned a lot in that first tour, things that really have stood me in good stead. Things like how to develop a job description to get to submit to the ICAS council at a post to get new staff. I chaired the technical evaluation panel and selected the internet service provider for the embassy, which was an $8 million contract. So it was a lot of things that I got to do that had that were sort of stretches for a brand new, I guess I was a 5 at that point even. I hadn't even had the administrative promotion yet. So it was a lot of really interesting stuff aside from the back-end tech support. And that's, if you get sent to a smaller post in Africa, you might expect something like that. And it can be tough. But you will learn a lot, and you certainly get to do and assume a lot of responsibilities and have a much kind of higher profile at that kind of post. Simply by walking off the plane in Zambia, having a master's degree in computer science, I became one of the top IT experts in the country. And that's pretty cool. So you get to do some pretty exciting things. But it stretches you. One of those doesn't kill you, make you stronger kind of moments. So it was, I will also say that we had, the time that I was acting IMO was during the rotation season. So there was a period where the only 3 people in the management section were me, a second tour assistant GSO, and the brand new management officer. So we were running everything, housing, motor pool, you name it. The 3 of us were covering it during rotation season. So there were things, like I was overseeing the make ready for the DCM's residence. So that's what my first tour was. So for the first 2 tours, no, you don't have a whole lot of say. But after that, yes, you have to bid, and the bidding process is sort of like applying for a job, and then you just happen to be applying for jobs that are inside the State Department. So you put together a resume, you do interviews, you do all the things you need to do. But the first 2 assignments are directed, so they just say, go there. They do, at least in my day, what they did is if the post had a high amount of what they call hardship differential, the first tour, your second tour, you kind of got bumped up the list, and they ask you your choices. You can rank order them, but they're not bound by your rank ordered selection. So they try to add some sort of equity into it so that, you know, if you're in Banjul the first tour, you don't end up in, you know, another small post in Africa, you know, the second tour, Djibouti. I mean, I don't know. And so, as a matter of fact, you know, in my case, my second tour was Paris. So the equity that I had from Zambia served me in good stead. And so after 2 years in Lusaka, we ended up doing a tour in Paris. Paris was fantastic. I actually had French from high school and college. And my wife is, as you might expect, as a Foreign Service journalist, is something of a wizard with languages. So she was able to pick it up. And she ended up on leave without pay, actually, for 2 years in Paris with embassy housing and everything. So she had a great tour. I think she saw 74 museums. You know, we went to attended wine tasting classes at the Cordon Bleu. We had membership at the Louvre. It was quite wonderful. The most memorable experience I had as an IMS that supported diplomacy, that would have to be supporting the presidential visit in Dar es Salaam, which was during President Obama's presidency. And he came down to Dar es Salaam to announce a major power initiative for the continent. The United States was going to be building power generators throughout the continent. And at the same time, actually, there was a First Ladies conference happening as well. So it was both President Obama and the First Lady, Michelle Obama. My duty basically was to implement all of the requirements of the White House Communications Office at the Hub Hotel. So when the president goes into a country like that, they basically take over a hotel. The Secret Service and the White House communications folks send you a list of requirements ahead of time, and it's extensive. They want their own cabling installed by their own people. You have to do things like run cables out onto the tarmac of the airport and all kinds of other crazy things. I didn't have to do that. My responsibility was the Hub Hotel, but I got together with the IT guy from the Hub Hotel, and we were running cable in the plenum space, drilling holes through walls. I installed a couple internet connections for Sasha and Malia's Disney Plus, you know, shows in the presidential suite. So you know, we were configuring cell phones. It was 16-hour days for 3-4 weeks, gearing up for that visit. I mean, just some some crazy stuff. Like there was this one patch panel in the hotel where we had repatched everything, and there were so many cables bulging out of it that you couldn't close the door on the patch panel without it causing some of the cables to pop out. So part of what I did actually on game day was make sure that I was checking. I put a big sign on it saying, "Do not close this door," and I had to be checking that door throughout the day to make sure nobody closed it, because if they did, like 3 White House communication services were going to go down. So it was unbelievably cool. I really liked the folks from the White House Communications Office that I worked with. You know, that they were very clear about their requirements, and they really needed things done on a tight timeline, which was a challenge, but it was also pretty cool. And the IMO at the time basically just kind of handed me the Hub Hotel and said, "This is your responsibility." And the team that I led were hotel contractors, and these are guys that did not speak English. So we communicated through sign language. The leader of the contractor team was he had like 4 or 5 teeth, and he would strip cable with his teeth. He wore his shirt open all the time, so he just wore this like kind of, you know, button down shirt open. He was not a very cut guy. He could have stood to lose the weight. And so that the only English that they really spoke was the English I taught them, which was to say on time and under budget. So we'd go through, I'd take them to a room and show them, the things that I needed done, and they'd nod their heads, and it's like holding a wire, here, there, and then say on time, under budget, and they'd say on time, under budget, and break, and then I'd go do what I needed to do while they were taking care of that stuff. So it was a pretty cool responsibility. It was, again, a lot of work, and challenging, but also really neat to be able to be providing direct service to the president that way. And actually at his keynote address, the White House communications staff got me in. They handed me a little earbud that was connected to nothing at all. And they said, wear a blazer and stand in the back with that little earbud. And the room was, the size of a hotel ballroom. So I was standing there with all the leadership of Africa, and there's President Obama, 10, 20 feet away from me, with First Lady Michelle Obama standing right next to me. He's delivering this huge address. So it was pretty cool. And I, got to meet him afterwards, shake his hand. So it was a really neat experience. Do I have any advice for those who are applying for the FATE Fellowship Program? I don't know a lot about the specifics of the program. I will say this though, and that is that the prototypical information management specialist in the past has come from tends to come from a very specific background. It tends to be folks who have military experience. They tend to be like Navy comm guys who have done tours, or our Air Force comm guys, done a number of tours. And the benefits of joining the Foreign Service are that they can roll their military time into Foreign Service time, and they get all kinds of perks and benefits from that. And the military guys are great. They're highly skilled. They have they contribute a lot. They've got a great work ethic. But it definitely means that information management specialists typically, and again, there's 600, 800 of us around the world. So, any generalization you make is instantly a lie the second you speak it. But we tend to be kind of that mold. So what I would say to the FATE Fellows is we need those folks who actually are outside that box. Folks who, I think increasingly the job of an information management specialist is less focused on the back end, less focused on the hardware. We're in a cloud world now. So a lot of the services that typically have belonged to an information management specialist in the past are going somewhere else. They're going to a data center somewhere else. So that in my view, the job of an IMS is going to be more outwardly focused, engaging with the frontline diplomats and helping them, putting solutions, technology solutions in their hands so that they can get their jobs done. Rather than making sure that the switches are configured correctly. I mean, some of that isn't going to go away, but a lot of it is. So I would say that the skill set that is going to be demanded of IMS down the line is going to be much more focused around being able to bridge the connection between the technology and the user, to be able to be the kind of conduit or bridge. And that demands communication skills and writing skills, project management skills that are different than maybe some of the network admin, sysadmin, hard skills that have been called upon in the past. So it's a job that's changing. And I would say that as you come in, you're going to have the opportunity fairly quickly in your career to make a mark. I'll give you an example. My third tour was back at the Foreign Service Institute. And in 2016, IRM published a 200, 300 page study talking about this transition. As we move to the cloud, what is the role of an IMS to do? And I actually, because of my background in education, got tasked with designing the curriculum to prepare IMS to make this transition. As a third tour IMS, I was developing a curriculum that the dean of the school called the most important curriculum she thought that the school offered. As a first tour IMS, I wrote an $8 million contract for the internet connection at the embassy. Got to serve on a presidential visit. there are ways to be impactful and to use your skills. So don't come into it thinking that you absolutely must be the most brilliant technology person ever. There are other skills that you can bring to the table that the job needs. So, you know, simply because you don't know all the ins and outs of PowerShell, don't let that deter you. There are other ways to make a contribution. And the kind of tagline about IMS is we're jack of all trades, master of none, and all is really capitalized, ALL, all. I did not think I would be using curriculum development skills when I took a job as an IMS, yet here I am doing it, right? So there's no telling how the job will draw out the skill sets that you bring to it. So youth, energy, different perspectives, diversity, all of that are things that Fate Fellows can bring to the table. And I mean, from the Fate Fellows that I've talked to and trained actually and worked with, I've been unbelievably impressed and just thrilled that they're interested in the Foreign Service as a career. So do I have any advice? No, I would have a plea. Come join us, because we can really use your energy, your vitality, your innovation, your perspectives. And I think that you'll find most IMS share that point of view.